Going to be a tough call for Japan, a second cancellation or risking a super spreader. But that's what this pandemic is all about, tough calls. Some leaders thrived under the pressure, others panicked and failed. The most crucial toss-up was between lockdowns and jobs. There is science to back both. Lockdowns act as circuit breakers. They flatten the curve and give governments breathing space. Last year, most countries used lockdowns to build their health systems. It has come in handy now during the second wave. On the flip side, lockdowns kill jobs, and that's a fact. We are talking about daily wages and gig workers. They do not have job security. The moment businesses shut down, they're unemployed. So that's the choice for most leaders, life versus livelihood. And it's not as simple as it sounds. Many people will tell you that livelihood comes second, but chances are these people have secure jobs. Striking this delicate balance is tough. It's important to make this decision with compassion, something that British Prime Minister Boris Johnson apparently failed to do. The story is from October 2020. Britain was dealing with a new wave of infections, so Johnson chaired a meeting to discuss a second lockdown. He grudgingly agreed to it. But this was what he supposedly said after the meeting. And I'm quoting, "No more lockdowns, let the bodies pile high in their thousands." The Prime Minister apparently used some colourful language in his remarks, and we will not go into that. But the words that stuck out were these: let the bodies pile high in their thousands. Boris Johnson would have rather presided over a bloodbath than impose a third lockdown. And for the record, he did end up ordering a third lockdown. That's what saved Britain from complete collapse. Leaders have resigned over far less in Britain, but Boris Johnson is not going down without a fight. He has denied making these remarks. The Prime Minister says he would rather focus on making the lockdowns work. For a man of many words, Johnson had very little to say about these reports.
No, but again, I think the important thing I think people want us to get on and do as a government is to make sure that the lockdowns work, and they have. And I really pay tribute to the people of this country, this whole country of ours that have really pulled together and working with the vaccination programme. We've got the disease under control. I mean,
Johnson has also deployed his ministers to defend him. Senior Minister Michael Gove says he was in the room for all pandemic meetings and he never heard language of this sort from the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister made a decision in that meeting to trigger a second lockdown. He made a subsequent decision to trigger a third lockdown. This is a Prime Minister who was in hospital himself in intensive care. The idea that he would say any such thing, I find incredible. I was in that room. I never heard language of that kind.
Only a public inquiry can get to the bottom of this, but one thing is certain. This wouldn't be Boris Johnson's first outrageous remark. When the Wuhan virus first came to Britain, he could not care less. Johnson made it a point to shake hands with everyone. And then last month, he dropped another gem. He said greed and capitalism helped Britain vaccinate effectively. Greed and capitalism. He later called it a joke. So these new remarks are not beyond him. But it's his word against the British media's. Letting bodies pile up is not a strategy. It's a death sentence. And unlike what many people think, this is not a toss-up between mass deaths and mass unemployment. There can be a middle ground. In fact, the United Kingdom is a great example of this. They're running a massive furlough scheme through the pandemic. Millions of gig workers are out of work, but they're still getting paid. So despite 3 lockdowns, there is no mass joblessness. Just 6 days back, Britain reported a dip in its unemployment rate. So you can have the best of both the worlds. But in some countries, things have not panned out so well. Look at Brazil. President Jair Bolsonaro thinks lockdowns are deadlier than the virus, and his countrymen are paying for it. Same in the United States. Donald Trump resisted lockdowns throughout 2020. The result was this: more than 500,000 Americans are dead. The bottom line is lockdowns do work. But the trade-off depends on how you manage it. Our lockdowns have also evolved since last year. We now have local lockdowns, mini lockdowns, night curfews. So the bitter pill is not as bitter anymore. And this does not make the choice any easier for leaders anywhere in the world, but that's their job. No government has been perfect during this pandemic. Their let-ups have cost lives and livelihoods. But it's important to be honest and compassionate about it. They say politics is the last resort of the devil. Comments like these, "let the bodies pile," is exactly why. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.